job, still trying to keep the money coming in. So a continuation where last year we received these 2 grants, and we didn't find out until January that the money was coming through, until the state had finally, but they will continue for the next 2 years, for the next year. One is the $61,738 is for our arts integration program, and that's for 4th and 5th graders. And it's a grant that we work with Torrington, Winsted, New Hartford, Mark Hampstead. The second interdistrict is as a cooperative grant, and that was with Litchfield, and it was during the school year. It says summer program, but it was during the school year, and actually they'll both continue to be during the school year. And that $58,533, we worked with the Discovery Center, which helps to bring students from different socioeconomic backgrounds, urban and suburban, together to really, have the opportunity to get and meet people who are different, who live in different places than they do, and just to see that, we have a lot in common. But it's really to develop tolerance and understanding for different social, culture, religious, just to come to understand differences. The Perkins education, we received $53,109, and that is for the high school, and that is pretty much work.
A lot of that goes to purchase equipment in the past, computers, some specialized career equipment, curriculum writing. It pays for field trips for students to go to New York City, to the financial district, and to Boston, and some of that funding also goes for the financial reality fair and for curriculum development. So it helps to keep that program kind of self-supporting and relieve some of the burden from our general budget.
The fresh fruit and vegetables is a renewal from last year. I don't know why they sent it. It's a supplement, so whether that supplement has to be used for something else, but we received it again for Vogel Wetmore.
Yeah, it's a startup. It's just a startup and amount that we have to use in September.
Okay, that's why it's written.
Yeah, I don't know why it's separate, but that's how the state does it.
But it will be for Vogel Wetmore again. We did apply for all 5 elementary schools. Well, we got it for 1, so 1 is better than nothing. IDEA is all for special education. So we have 2, and the IDEA Part B is for so that we can service, because we are mandated by the state of Connecticut to service children who from age 3 on up. We have a transition in 2 years, 9 months for preschoolers, and so we have monies for that. We also have a renewal, got that this week, a renewal of our Even Start grant, which is $156,000, and we also received 50 more for school readiness, 15 more slots, so we actually doubled our slots for school readiness. We've always had 15 slots that get split between Torrington Child Care Center up on Kennedy Drive and Head Start, which is right here on Forest Court, and we now have 15 more seats for Torrington Child Care Center. So we double that money in the school. There were 250 slots available, seats available for competitive school districts. I know one district that got 1 seat, we have 15, so we doubled ours. So that was, good news. And hopefully there'll be more coming in. Oh, I forgot to. We received $50,000 from Graustein Memorial for the purpose of early childhood literacy, and we will be working with preschools and kindergartens and parents in town. We're trying to develop a stronger alignment between preschool and the expectations in kindergarten and early literacy, and we will actually have preschool teachers come, go into kindergarten classrooms, see how literacy is taught there, and then the literacy specialist person will actually work with the preschools and helping them design units and lessons, so that it really builds another foundation for prior to a child entering kindergarten. It will be based on the new state standards. And we'll also offer programs for parents with their children and how to do literacy tasks with them, how to read to your child, how to do finger plays, nursery rhymes, all that good stuff. That how to ask your child questions when you're working with you're making supper, whatever you're doing with your child, how you involve them in the whole early process of understanding the importance and significance of letters, numbers, reading. So it's this is through Graustein Memorial. That will help pay for that position, a portion of that position, and some of it we hope to use it for one book, one community. 2 years ago, one of our elementary schools, East School, did one book, one school, and over 800 people, families, separate individuals came to the final celebration because they were picking up the book. They had grandparents and neighbors and, everybody reading it in the East End community. And so what we would like to try is select one book and develop a whole unit for each of our elementary schools and involve all the community in reading the book and sharing with children and the children reading themselves. Yes.
Now that you're talking about raising money for these grants, I was seeing a show on a business network, and they were talking about Target, and Target supposedly gives a certain percentage of their revenue to local school districts. Just wondering, are we getting money from Target?
Not right now. We've had through Torrington Early Childhood Collaborative, we had money. We had $30,000 this year from CBS for tech. Just other grants that we've written. We do have $7,500 from the foundation, Northwest Connecticut Foundation, for a summer program building bridges at Forbes. We had the Lowe's grant for the PTO for beautification, and Walmart generally is always giving $1,500, $2,000 here and there. So yes, we do go to whoever offers us.
I'd give them a call though,
Yeah,
because their show, I don't know how that formula worked, but they said part of their corporate motto is to give a certain
Our
percentage.
principals
It's up to
mentioned
the
that today,
individual
that they were
managers
looking
at the
at.
store, the one in Torrington will only do $1,000.
Well, the way that show made it like 1% of their revenue or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
corporate
yeah.
district,
Okay, well, I guess the show was,
One of the things too, though, is we found out, we were sharing it yesterday at the retreat, the administrative retreat, is that Stop and Shop will, parents can sign up, and the difference between, you learn all these things, the difference between, Price Chopper, was a Big Y. Big Y, you can sign up, and whatever you spend there, then they'll send a booklet out to the schools and say, so many people have signed up and you now have $1,000, but you can only buy what's in their book. With Stop and Shop is that they'll put it in the local bank and then you get a check from the bank, so principals will get actual cash to spend where they want it. So, and what they need, so it'll go into their student activity funds. So we will be putting that out to parents in the fall that, sign up and, even if it's $25 a year from each family.
That'd be a great story for local newspapers to write, comparing our retail stores in Torrington, our big chains, and what they're contributing to public education, comparing them. I think there's a lot of people in Torrington who would like to read that. They talk about food and shopping all the time, at least my family does. They'd like to know who's really helping the community and who isn't. Stir up a lot of talk.
Because I think with the one with Stop and Shop, it can be grandparents, it can be neighbors, it can be
Yep.
anybody.
Yep. Yep.
Information sharing number 6. We had our Board of Ed retreat last night. Mr. Gary Brochu from Shipman and Goodwin, I think, gave a very good presentation to us. The keys, I believe, that we came out of it with is that an effective board is a board that has a culture that is conducive to attaining its goals. He talked about trying to align goal orientation and subcommittee assignments. The board sets goals that we either, you could use the same subcommittees that we have, or you could realign your subcommittees to be goal orientated instead of topic orientated. He went over board member roles. He went over communication. He had a handbook that he gave out that, Andrew, there's a full packet of all the handouts. I don't know if you got it or
Yeah,
not.
got it.
Okay. And we have one for Mr. Rivero that didn't make it, and for the new board member when the player to be named later is named. And he went over the executive session criteria and how we have to, he recommends, or the Mooney book recommends that we write our agendas in addressing executive sessions. So you'll see a change in the agenda format going forward when it addresses an executive session. I would like to stress one thing that has risen and that he did talk about was the communication. We have to, there's one voice to the outside world from the board that passes through the chair position. We do not individually send emails, bless you, to newspapers and outside agencies. We run it through the chair. I know it's been said many times before, but I'd just like to reiterate that. We are going to move into our public participation. I believe we have one name on the list.
I just have two very short questions. In the networking part of the testing, how do you keep the more advanced kids from doing the larger part of the research and the others leading on it? Does it matter in terms of what you're attempting to measure?
There are certain parts of the activities where students are permitted to work together. They can view a stimulus together, they can have discussions together, and the program will set the parameters for when they can collaborate, and then also when students must submit their individual responses. So the teachers and test proctors will be responsible for making sure that the students move through each phase of that testing according to the testing protocol. So when it's time for a student to enter an individual response, for example, the example in the packet where the students do all of this work together, but then in the end they have to write a persuasive essay about the topic. Each one of them will do that on their own and submit their own response.
So students who might be the advanced student might share all of his information with the others. He gets no special input for his abilities, even though he's basically sort of in locus teaching within the group of their networking. But does that matter?
I don't think it matters because the response that that student writes would reflect the richness of their understanding of the topic. And when the students who may not have the same level of mastery have to work on their own, they can draw on the conversation and on the stimulus, but they're going to stand on their own. So I think that you're still going to see a broad distribution of scores that reflect a broad distribution of mastery across the classes. I hope so. I mean, we'll see.
Well, the other one is gets short. The word problems, how are these word problems different from the old-fashioned word problems that we had in the average mathematics book score since way back? I mean, I see no real difference. I mean, if you take this amount of, the one we used to have is the diagram of the football field. Why is this one different in any kind of capacity than the one we've already had? And what is the redundancy factor? Some of this stuff is extremely redundant, except it's technologically induced now.
I agree with you that a good word problem is a good word problem. I think the difference is in the past, we didn't have a testing instrument that allowed students to engage in those problems. The closest thing that we had on the CMTs were what were called the Strand 25 questions, which were more complex situations, and yet even with those, most of them boil down to figuring something out and then selecting from a menu of options. When you're using this platform, you can draw diagrams, you can show your work, and those responses can be submitted electronically as part of your answer. So they're not really different. But what it does is the use of tablets, for example, will give the students an opportunity to draw diagrams, to create charts, to create spreadsheets, to create a product that is substantively more solid than just picking from a menu of answers.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out with all this is how the content of the information is differentiated, simply because it's being induced by a.
I don't think the content is much different. I think you're right on with that, but.
So we're really spending a lot of money for, just to be able to push buttons rather than write something down with a pencil.
It'll look nicer.
Okay, that's all I want to know. Because when other times comes around and we, parents have to say how we feel about it, I want to be able to say, this is really necessary, or this is just cute. And cute seems to be coming up higher and higher and higher as we get more technologically advanced. And what we're finding out from a lot of places is that, you know, all the technology is not really, the kids with the most technology are really plateauing out at certain levels. And there's that horrible story out there in Silicon Valley where Silicon Valley technicians all started sending their kids to school for computers. And I thought that was interesting, even if it was a popular story. But I think it's something we have to look at down the line, whether or not it's attempting to establish how our teachers teach based on the technology, rather than the technology being an integral part of the process. Because I think we're really talking about coaching teachers. The state says something that we have to have the teachers come down and learn how to teach in relationship to the technology. And I think things are staying an interesting phenomenon. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, discussion items, action items. Number one, estimated cost of live TV production.
Inside your packet, you have a sheet, and for your request, we had someone come out and take a look at our existing setup. It was the same company that does the St. Jude program. And our problem right now is really the antiquity of our equipment that we have. We would need, you know, these were just a few of the things that they said that we would need to come up to move from analog to high definition. And they said that it would be anywhere from $75,000 to $90,000. So what you have is, you know, the bottom dollar. We're doing all in-house, but we're using our current resource for producing our shows and for moving to a live component, going with teacher advisor. We would have, in both cases, we would have student technicians. In both cases, students would be involved in, you know, composing the final product that would either go to cable or go to and to our website. If we cannot afford it, or we can't get a quality live production with the current technology we have based in the building. And you said keep it under 6,000. So
The confusion you're having is under the first item where it's in bold, it says total of personnel, and there's an equipment line. The dollar amount total cost was not filled in that box.
right, because it
Blank.
just, yeah, it would be another 75,000. It would be about 80,000.
The response came in today from Cablevision that they would estimate that. So they estimated the upgrade of that to get us to high def to match what they would like to see us at is going to be 75,000 to 90,000 for wiring and equipment.
Yeah, but that's high def. We're not local cable access. We don't need high def. We weren't high def before.
Actually, federal regulations for broadcast require it
They
today.
require it now.
You're not
Local
allowed
cable?
to, you're not
Local
allowed to
cable?
broadcast analog anymore,
Even on local cable.
even on local cable.
We we are not currently.
You have to be connected to them in that signal formula. The old signals were sold off, that bandwidth section.
It's the reason that they now, at the St. Jude's has a truck come in and do their thing. They used to use our wiring and connections, they no longer do that. They actually bring their own production crew in because we can't provide them with the level of service that they have broadcasting. So if we went live, we'd be looking at a $5,700 labor and a large capital outlay. If we do it the way we're currently doing, and we just have them air it at a given time off the feed that we have, we're looking just south of 5,000.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to move the ability to do it ourselves in-house as a self-production ahead. It still allows the students to have their training capabilities, still allows them ability to see what's going on, but it keeps our costs reasonable and eliminates a large capital outlay. And with a guaranteed time to watch it, people who wish to turn in to see what the board is doing will have the ability.
Do we have a second for that motion?
Second?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're just talking about using the
Yeah.
total self-production.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Second from Lynn. Any discussion on it?
Yes, first.
All right, Fiona.
So is this two separate options on here?
There's two separate options on there. Sorry.
Yeah, the top one is for the teacher advisor, student technicians. And then the second one is the current process. Yeah,
But the second one says work with students also.
yes.
Yes.
And the union's in agreement with that.
We don't have a teacher stepping forward to do it, so we're gonna just continue. We've been running with this production for a year now. We're just gonna.
So the first option probably really isn't an option because we don't have anyone willing to do it. I guess is what I wanted to bring up.
The first one is gonna cost $80,000.
No, the first half that Dan motioned,
Okay.
but no one's come forward to advise the kids in that option. So to me, it's really not an option if we don't have anyone who's willing to
Well,
do
Dan's
it.
trying to do the total self-production on the bottom, which is using our current staff, the current person that's filming now, with the students.
Okay, I thought he wanted the top half
No,
without
he
the
wants to do the
equipment.
bottom half, he wants to do the.
It's
Not
not-
her.
Oh, but
We're gonna send.
Okay, first, let me just clarify. So with option number 2, the $4,500 one, when is it, this is going to be, what, just put on our website then?
no, we need to bring it to cable to air, and they can select.
Let me clear this up for you 1 second here, Paul. We can do the top option down to the 5,740, or we can do the bottom option down to the 4,550. Either one of those can be taped and delivered to Cablevision to be played at a later date, not live. If we want to go live, and we use either one of the top or the bottom, we add the 75 to 90,000 in equipment and cable upgrades. Is that correct? So the equipment, or that 80,000 for the equipment, is only to go live. Our other options are, we do not have a teacher advisor that is currently stepping up to do it. We do have Walking Man Media over here who has agreed to do it under his current pricing schedule and will work with the students. Yeah, you have to turn around.
Yeah,
Those are really, I think, the discussion was to go live. We have to decide, the motion on the floor now is to not go live, seconded by Vinnie, and it's to go with Walking Man Media, is that correct? Dan?
Yes.
And to submit the I don't know how you give it to them, on a disc or a stick or whatever, however it gets it, to Cablevision to be shown at, we'll arrange a time that we feel is an adequate time, not 2 o'clock in the morning on Friday or something like that. We'll arrange a pre-scheduled time with them and they'll show us once a month at that time. And it'll be on our website.
Okay, so option number 1, $5,700 one?
Yes.
Okay. That is for the current, that is using our current cameras?
That is using our current cameras,
It's our current equipment that we have.
current equipment.
Right, so that would be a 3-camera shoot, basically. We have 3 cameras, we have lighting. That would be for a 3-camera shoot. We have a switcher. So we could basically have students still produce this tape as a learning experience, and we would end up with the tape, versus hiring a third-party vendor who would do it himself, and there's no educational.
No,
there is.
The students are in both options. The top option, the only difference is the top option is a teacher advisor. And the bottom option
Go on. Say.
is with Walking Man Media. Both of them include working with students and the production costs.
Yeah, but this is working with students to edit, you know, trust me, I was a professional editor for 14 years. This is not, you know,
Is this students to tape it or just students to edit it?
Every part of it.
But you don't have the money in there for the students to tape it that you have up top. Up
This
top,
sounds
you
like
have-
we're gonna continue, he's gonna take, he's gonna give it to the kids are gonna edit, you know what editing's gonna be? It's gonna be, you're gonna encode the thing, you're gonna pull it up, boom, and that's it, and you're gonna output it. That's the learning experience.
But
Oh, come on,
No, that's not it.
what is it?
It is the experience that they just said, that students would actually be doing all the taping. I'm working as an advisor,
With one camera, just the camera like you got now? No,
as
the
many
muzzle?
cameras as you have.
Oh,
that's what this is.
I'm confused as to why that's different than what.
The advisor and the students an
So-
option too, or no?
Yes, the students are in both options.
No, getting
So we're just
paid.
paying you instead of a teacher to basically do it?
Essentially,
Paying
that's
you
correct.
instead
We're
of-
paying him
Yes.
versus a teacher, but we're gonna do it the same way.
Okay, Bill, fine. That's fine, that's
But
fine.
is
I
there
don't care.
another
But here's what I want.
1120 for the students?
Excuse me?
Is there another 1120 for the students?
I don't know. I
That's the
didn't-
1,400, right?
Yeah.
And then the 700 is the editing.
I thought 14 was copies.
And that second proposal doesn't pay the students, just like we don't pay the students to participate in clubs or activities. They do it voluntarily.
And
So
students
it's
coming
not a
forward.
class,
Not a class.
It's the
Students
same
just
way they did
volunteering
it
to
with,
it's
learn.
like extracurricular.
and
Yeah,
this-
so what I
this-
did my senior year at Tech, I mean, I volunteered at Cable 5 my senior year. So, yeah, you just do it pro bono.
So they're
Just like this, they
Well, I'm saying
produced
that-
the Civic Life video, volunteered
Right.
to do it. They
Right.
weren't compensated to participate in
Right.
that activity.
If you play a sport,
Right.
So no, it does not include paying the students, but it includes working with students to do it.
and it will include, you know, I know there's always been a request for pre-interviewing and,
I'm going to either abstain or vote against doing it at all, because the total rationale to get this thing up and running was to have it live, because that's what the community seemed to like, the actual live right then. I don't know if anybody, the reason why I would abstain is I would like to know if, I don't know how we would actually know this, but I'd like to know if anybody's watching it on the internet right now.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
easy to
is there
tell.
any, I don't know.
That's very easy to tell. Our IT department should be able to get that to us by tomorrow morning fairly fast. They can tell you from the number of.
What I'm saying, if there's some
it's on it.
interest in it, then I would,
No, I would say that's a fraction of what was watching live, because, you know, so many of the other seniors are not gonna, they're not gonna log in to look for this thing, they just aren't. They're watching and they see this, and this is local, just like designer show. It's local.
But they're
just
still
like-
gonna
just
see
like
it,
Talk of the
they're still
Town.
gonna see it on.
That's not the point. The point is to basically, the point was to put this live so that Torrington people, parents, taxpayers, fellow city officials can see our meetings and understand what it is we're talking about and why we're talking about it and why this costs as much as it does. It was to be inclusive of the community and a community service. This taping does not quite do that. I understand the cost factor, which is suddenly new to me. In order for me to approve any of this, number one, I would like to request that I want to see whoever did your estimate, could I see a breakout, a specific breakout of the cost?
to do that, it costs money.
Wait, a minute, we paid, no.
Oh, yes,
No.
for an, that's
We
what I was
paid them an
told.
estimate, but we can't get the
No,
estimate in
we
writing?
didn't, no, we did not pay them for an estimate. We asked them if they would come out, take a look at everything. They spent a couple of hours out here, what we had. And in conversation, they said, this is what you need, boom, 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 right? And it was just a ballpark figure. But to do an estimate, we'd have to pay them, because it would be much more detailed to get specific to what that would entail.
Okay, I'd like to make a secondary motion. My secondary motion is to table this discussion. I've been in conversation with Laurel Cablevision. Her name is Karen Heck. I did call her. She's gonna be in touch here, and she said she will send a Cablevision technician to come and spec out our place and see what that would entail. I'd like to see what Cablevision says it would cost us to actually get up to speed to do this live. They have a vested interest in it.
Paul, if I can, I do remember
There's a second
you.
motion on the floor. Can I get
There
a
was the
second
first
for my-
motion, so
No.
we have to vote on the first.
No, I voted, I made a
There's
second.
secondary motion,
And I
we need a second on the secondary
Yeah, I'll
motion.
second
Thank you,
that.
Andrew.
All right, discussion on the secondary motion.
Paul, one of your concerns, if I remember correctly, was to have the students involved in editing this. If you're gonna have it live, where is that value?
I would rather have them in the live production. The editing was to come if they're gonna do pre-meeting, post-meeting interviews. That involves editing, that involves real editing. Now you're doing over the camera shots, now you're doing cutaways, now you're doing split audio, now you're doing real editing.
So now where's that footage gonna go? I mean, you're already showing
I would then
you're
take
showing it live. And
I would post that to the website, just like we posted these.
Okay.
It's beautiful, it's a perfect experience. You take those into, you put it as part of the meeting.
But you can do that with the rebroadcast as well. I don't
Yes, you
see-
can, I'm not saying you can't. I'm
Okay,
saying
then I don't see the point to
The point is
pushing
live.
to,
The
I
point
don't
is
see.
live.
They just
I-
want
The point is live,
You wanna
man.
go?
The point is live. Live is live, it's live to me, and at least to Andrew, I don't know if anybody else, is a much more inclusive experience for the community and much more, it reaches a lot more people,
Yes, Jim?
It would still be on Cablevision, just not that night. right?
Yes. That's correct.
And we don't have to edit it to send it. It can appear exactly how it happens that night. So it would be
Do we
seeing
know what times
seeing
they
it
have
live without
available?
editing.
She was gonna get back to us on that, she didn't see it at the same time slot.
Because I think that would be important if you could view it sometime soon after the meeting, when the
We
public.
could probably
Oh,
get Wednesday.
We would have to.
Yeah, I mean, if they could put it on the same week or the following week, then it's still current.
Well, if you watch like Cable 5, I mean, Jeff Zeiner, the Meet the Leaders shows, the thing is on 100 times a week. I mean,
Right.
I've seen the same conversation every time I turn on. I was like, "Oh."
Yeah, but you don't watch it because it's old. You don't watch it
I
the second
understand.
time around.
I don't watch it the first time. That's- It's
No,
between
when
4
it's
and 6.
live,
I know.
it's news. When it's broadcast later, it's history. And I taught history. I appreciate history, but I don't think I'd watch a meeting from last week of the city council.
Maybe the next day.
And
would
Jeff
be-
Steiner's meeting is, I
Probably
mean, this
not.
shows 15
Not
minutes.
unless there was
We're,
something in the paper that made me want.
That's exactly why you would probably watch that.
A day or two maybe, but I
Ellen.
don't let them play with it.
Ellen, do you have any discussion? Okay, on the secondary motion,
I have one more thing to add. If you table this, our target date was still September, right? To get this running?
yes.
So if we can get Cablevision here to do, I just can't believe these people came out here. They came out here free to look at it, but they wouldn't put anything in writing, no. All right, I would like to
I
get,
do have, if Daniel said that cable couldn't do it because we're analog.
Well, if where you have an analog signal, they cannot rebroadcast that. The FTC, the Federal Trade, or FCC, sold that part of the bandwidth. That's why everybody has switched to HDTV. It's why even on old analog television, you have to get a converter box now.
Yeah.
Those signals are no longer able to be broadcast or received. So
So
if
if
they're
we
right,
went-
if we have an analog signal out, then whatever equipment we have has to be upgraded to meet the minimum requirement, which is
but I-
HDTV.
but does Cablevision not convert?
Again,
We
I
go to
don't,
ESPN all the time.
I understand.
At the source though, right, with your trailers?
No, no, in-house. We'll all convert in-house if we have to. If we take some feed in from, a Uruguayan soccer match,
So if we didn't stop our production the way we used to do it, we would have been grandfathered in?
No.
No,
No,
Oh, they were
eventually,
gonna eventually
Shut the
call us.
down.
yeah,
Right.
eventually they would have cut the signal.
Okay.
So
And that's
again,
why it's not
that's-
as.
So my motion is to table this until we've had time to
Alright.
talk to Cable Vision and see if they can be of any help in getting us an HD, up converting from HD, and therefore no real additional cost to the district.
All right, all those in favor of tabling this until the next meeting? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those opposed to tabling this to the next meeting? Vincent was a no. So. The first motion, you gotta go back and finish the first motion.
Can I withdraw the first
You
motion?
most certainly can. First motion is withdrawn. Do we have a second to withdraw the first motion? We have 4 seconds to withdraw.
I'll withdraw
Give
my
it to
second.
Andrew.
Andrew withdraws his second, so it's gonna go to Paul. Okay. Financial statements. Fiona, would you like to fill in for Chris? His first chance to shine.
I'm not feeling shiny. Basically, there's not much to report. If you want to explain, we have a
Sure.
little confusion at budget about this.
Yep, this is just what we did for the month of July because there's not really expenditures yet. We just started the year. I gave you the expense report that was approved by the budget, what's in the budget book, so you could just see where all the numbers fell. The 2013 level 1 column is the 2012-2013 budget moving forward. And from here on in, you'll begin to get all the expense reports like you're used to seeing moving forward.
Okay, so that's really
This is
just
just
our
a
budget.
recap, yeah.
Information.
Would you like to make a motion to accept that, Fiona?
I will make a motion to accept.
Second by Ellen, discussion?
Now that we've got the final, we have the final numbers on our health benefit expenses that we paid for last year. All our claims.
Oh, yes, not
See
in
what
here.
we
We,
budgeted, what we have
for
surplus.
2011-12,
Yes.
from the city or from just what the Board of Ed
What-
paid, what the Board of Ed paid?
What we budgeted for, what we paid into it, and
Do you have your
then
final
what was the
expenses?
actual, what was our actual?
I don't have the June
What
numbers
was the
yet.
surplus is what I'm asking.
From the city surplus?
No, our surplus.
We don't
He
have
wants to
the
know if you have all
surplus.
your expenses ready yet for June.
For the insurance?
Yes.
What do you mean we don't have our surplus? We don't have a deficit, we don't have a surplus.
The city controls the insurance fund, so that's why I was asking if that's what you mean. We receive a bill from the city every year for, say, $12 million, such dollars, and that's what we budget for. So
Right.
the Board of Ed wouldn't have a surplus for the insurance,
And
but
be-
the city has the surplus for
And
the insurance.
because we're self-insured, the concept is to be self-insured, then we budget X amount of money, and then at the end of the year, we tally up how many claims were put into the
Yep.
system, and then we determine whether or not we had a surplus or a deficit
Right.
in that account. I would like to know what we budgeted for, i.e. paid to the city,
Yep.
to be in that concept of self-insured health benefit package. And I would like to know what the final numbers are of what our people actually cost to insure them.
Okay.
In their what they actually spend and needs to be.
Okay. I do not have the June financials from Anthem yet. We only have through May because it's always about a month and a half behind, so I should have the June financials from Anthem next month. And then I will have to wait for the city because the comptroller does what you're asking for, because we don't control the money for the insurance, we just get billed by the city. So as soon as I get those numbers from the city, I can bring it.
So you don't on a monthly basis see what our employees are
That
costing?
spreadsheet you used to give.
Yeah, I have up through May, it was at the budget committee, it was in that packet, but I don't have the June numbers yet because we haven't received those from Anthem. I should have them by next month, it's usually just a month and a half behind.
And then what we did in this year, as we budgeted for that item, we were under the assumption that surplus money from one year will then be applied to the expenditure in the next year by a certain dollar amount. And I'd like to know what that dollar amount we're getting, if we had a surplus, what that surplus amount is being put back into that line item.
$1 million.
It's $1 million.
That's
And
what was
we,
put back. $1 million.
you know, when we had the original conversations, I'm not positive you were on the board at the time or not, but the concept was really to try to work out some type of formula where if we came in with a $2 million surplus, that $2 million was going to kick in next year and reduce that line item. I'd like to know how that's actually working. You're saying it's one, I understand, that's what we've been doing for the last couple of years.
Because we can't, what it does to our ECS funding equation is if we have a good year where we have a $9 million surplus, our funding from the state's gonna go down because our cost per student is gonna go down. So what the city has done with the insurance, I know we've been down this road before. What the city has done with the insurance, and it has not changed for the last 3.5 years.
Right.
The surplus is applied, we get billed a flat amount.
Right.
110% of our insurance.
Right.
Any surplus is used to buy down the city side of the insurance,
Right.
minus $1 million that comes to us. If there's a $5 million surplus, we get $1 million, they get 4. If there's a $3 million surplus, we get 1, they get 2.
I'd like to see those actual numbers.
Okay.
So,
Because it would cause too much of a fluctuation in our ECS funding from year to year that we would be a mess budget-wise.
or we can just analyze it from a different perspective going
Right.
forward. So if we can see those numbers presented.
Well, yeah, it's usually, you have that spreadsheet, it'll show us exactly what we paid to the city and what our expenses were.
Yep.
And that's what caused the controversy
Right.
4 years ago.
Right.
So we want to stay on top of it. Thanks.
The budget transfer.
Again, all those in favor of accepting the financial statement? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Budget transfer.
Believe it or not, we had a very lengthy discussion regarding this $423 budget transfer. Basically, there's an increased class size in the tech ed classes, which is a good thing. So they actually need more supplies. Our concern was that the money was coming out of repairs to go to supplies. So we got a little bit better explanation of what kind of supplies they were looking for, and that it was the result of an increased class size and not having enough supplies to cover the class size. So we felt it was a worthy transfer. Motion to.
Second. Motion by Fiona, second by Ellen. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous? Okay, number 4, RFP, I'm sorry, for IT services. I got that was right, for IT services.
Basically, just would like to authorize the administration to go out to RFP to see what it would be to get an outside company that can provide a turnkey solution with both in-house technicians as well as all engineering services and backup support services. So they can provide a corporate standard of 4-hour turnaround time and guaranteed uptime of 98% or better. Same as you would expect in any private environment.
Is it a motion?
That was a motion to go out to RFP to get the information.
Okay, second by Vincent. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That was unanimous also. Okay, newspaper articles. Newspaper article number 1, registered citizen. Where'd it go? Ran a newspaper article called Torrington School Officials Hunting Illegal Tax Activity. We have since spoken to the reporter who wrote the article. We received concerns from some of our representatives from the community that helped us formulate this policy over the last 2 years. As we all know, the policy was a creation of an audit over 2 years ago that showed that there was tax There's tax-free accounts that were not showing up on our balance sheet because they were for volunteer groups that worked under our umbrella, but were not recorded by us, and the government wanted to see that cleaned up. The article, unfortunately, my response to the letter was that it refers to the 30-50 policy as a parent-teacher organization policy, which is a PTO policy. And we've had, unfortunately, many meetings about clearing that up. That we asked the PTOs to help us craft a policy to bring them in-house. And the reason we selected the PTOs was because they're the largest user, and that allowed, you know, the biggest user to help create the policy which all groups would have to live under. It's not in any way meant to single them out. It is, you know, they were a very helpful and willing participant in creating this policy. It also says in here that the policy has to do with tax write-offs. We're a tax-free organization. We don't pay taxes, so we can't write anything off. The PTOs have always been operating as a tax-free organization also under our tax ID number. It was just pointed out that it's being incorrectly recorded because they're not on our balance sheet as being showed under one tax number. So it's not, they weren't doing it to get a write-off because they weren't paying the taxes to begin with. It's just a tax-free situation. Our other concern with it is the tapping of the Internal Revenue Service. It is not our intention, nor do we ever hope to have the Internal Revenue Service visit us at the Torrington Public School Systems for a friendly or non-friendly visit. It's just best to keep them in their office and not ours. We have asked the reporter to clear up the fact that we're not looking to tap the IRS. We don't want to ask the IRS anything. The article has been beneficial to us, as was pointed out by our business manager, that many people have reached out to us since this happened. The other confusions that were in here was that when Mrs. Batchelder had said that there were 4 groups that we knew of that were using our tax number, it's hard to say incorrectly because it was never really incorrect. It's just the way it's always been done. None of us knew it was incorrect. It was never malicious, never intentional, just wrong, and we have to fix it. The reason it was only identified as 4 groups is that all the PTOs in her mind were lumped as one group. The booster was a group, Project Graduation was a group, and Forbes Flyers was a group. So it led to our 7 PTOs feeling that 4 of them were being singled out, that they were doing something wrong, because they automatically count that 7 plus the other groups. There's 11. Oh my God, 4 of us are getting tapped by the IRS, which is not the case. And we never had any intention, and we do not believe that anyone used our tax identification number for personal gain. I do believe that our reporter is going to write that that was never the case, and graciously going to exonerate us of that, because it's you know, as we had a very good discussion on it with Mr. Campbell, and it's a reporting issue. It's not a misuse issue. The misuse of the tax number was the fact that they just didn't show on our balance sheet. It's not that any of the groups did anything wrong. It's just we have to record it differently going forward. And you know, the comment that it was a nightmare, I think that we can all agree it's been stressful. So, nightmare may not be the right word, but it's been stressful. So, that covers the first of them. The next article is test scores, as reported in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. There was an investigation done. I don't know if you're aware of this, Andrew.
Yeah, I read that.
Our first thing is, unfortunately, the article referred to 2 Connecticut school districts being identified as at risk. Unfortunately, there was 47 Connecticut school districts that were identified with suspicious scores. Not necessarily at risk, but scores, the test results that were suspicious. Our position on this is each year Torrington Public Schools and any other school district that did not make AYP, adequate yearly progress, must design and implement a district improvement plan that is shared with the BOE and the CSDE, which stands for?
Connecticut State Department of Education.
Okay, I probably should have gotten it. Torrington Public School has demonstrated growth over the last 6 years, however, not enough to meet our goal in reading, writing, and math in all of our schools. And we have not made AYP because we must make it with our subgroups such as special ed, ESL, Hispanic, African American, etc. The test results in Atlanta, Georgia are probably not comparable with the test results here because states do not work under the same tests. We're the Connecticut Mastery Test and the Georgia Mastery Test. However, after 2015 with the Smarter Balanced Assessments, if I'm correct, there will be standardization across the country, so they might be more in line.
In one of the two consortiums, yeah.
Right. All tests are kept under lock and key in Torrington except when being administered by a teacher. Once a student completes a test cycle, which is generally 1 day, the tests are collected immediately and returned to the storage room and locked until the next day. Students only receive a booklet once. They do not receive the same test booklet 2 days in a row, which would make it easy for them to go back and change an answer. Torrington Public School has a zero tolerance policy regarding any staff that is caught changing answers on CMT or CAP tests, and they will automatically lose their certification. We also believe that the individuals in our schools who are responsible for the administration of these tests are some of the best educators we have. Torrington Public Schools has worked extremely hard to improve the academic achievement of the students. The Board of Ed must be fully aware of the impact that changes in administration over the last 6 years has had the changes in administration has had an impact on academic achievement. It has been a constant trauma and upheaval for both students and staff. The best thing to do right now is to make a combined statement, which we're doing, that there is no basis for this accusation. We have a letter from Joseph Sarasula, thank you, from Connecticut, from CAPS.
Connecticut Association of School Superintendents.
Recently, a Connecticut newspaper published a story about a number of Connecticut school districts that the story claimed had been identified by an Atlanta paper as having a result test score history that makes the progress displayed by those results suspicious. The superintendents of schools who lead these districts are very concerned about this story because they and their staffs have worked hard to improve student achievement, and it is disconcerting to them that the progress that they and the efforts that they have made in test scores has now been called into question. Accordingly, CAPS and the state is looking into and has requested the data from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that they base their determination on. They will be looking into it, we will be looking into it. No charges have been levied. The state of Connecticut reviews these test scores on an annual basis. There has never been suspicion of our school district. There has been school districts around. The 47 that were listed are not necessarily on a watch list for the state of Connecticut. Some school district in Atlanta was looking to get out of trouble. They analyzed scores all across the country. It's called the shift of blame. It takes the focus off of you. We did not respond immediately to this article, which caused some disconcern because unfortunately the superintendent was on vacation. It was hard to get data between the time that I was originally contacted on this and the time the newspaper article was printed. The third article came out this morning. Has had nothing to do with the first two. It was a record shredding or destruction article. It is not related to any of the above articles. Every year we have to dispose of records because you keep a certain number of years of financial and student information. As last year moves in, the oldest year moves out. It's a process that happens every year, every business, every school, every state. They are not tied. We are not shredding test scores. We are not even, we are looking at the article specifically stated that it is a special ed requirement that the parents are allowed to come in and get their information if they would like to keep the file before it becomes boxed up and gets shredded. So that is all that we had for newspaper articles. Does anyone have any discussion on it? Mr. Kiske?
Yeah, Paul was good enough to forward the links to the original articles. They developed their own statistical methodology and then their own arbitrary line to draw through it. They're still mad about Billy Sherman, I think, and trying to get even. But, you know, well, really, you know, this is the same state that gave us Lester Maddox, George Wallace, and Andersonville. I'm not really excited about what they think.
Neither were we, because the article was an article written about somebody else's article.
Yeah.
And I had spoken to the reporter, and I had said at the time it was an article written about somebody else's article. And until we had the facts in-house to actually analyze them and look at them, I didn't have a response to an article that we don't have any facts.
Right, and can I just add, we do not maintain any tests in-house. We get results back. We have no, I mean, everything.
You have to send them back. You seal them up and ship them out.
The other thing is the tests change about every 4 years. So even if you're to look at these tests, then you can follow a cohort group, but you want to make sure that the students you're following were there the year before, and we do that. I know,
As an example,
but I can't share it with you because it's embargoed.
Never mind.
But you can follow your third grade classes, your 4th through 8th grade classes. And you can also follow a class. Okay, how did they do in 3rd grade? How did they do in 4th grade? How did they do in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th? So we do that. We look to see that a class does gain each year. But the other thing I would like to, and the other piece that I'd like you to know is that having served as district-wide test coordinator for 2 years, and Sue has been doing it for the past 2 years, there are such explicit rules, procedures, and protocols that must be followed. You go to a 2-day training. The first time you do it, you come back, you train the site coordinators, and these are generally our assistant principals and our language arts people who oversee this. Everything is counted, everything has a label on it. There's such a if you have a child who becomes hospitalized during your assessment, you have to make sure that you can deliver.
Make a motion to extend the meeting beyond 10.
All those in favor of extending the meeting beyond 10? Opposed?
No, but I mean, I'm just saying that if a child is in the middle of taking a test, says, I feel ill, I have to go to the nurse, goes to the nurse, that test becomes invalidated, becomes null and void, and the child will have to take, and we have to order a replacement. Yeah. So.
We also, the test scores that were referenced in the Atlanta, when Mr. Leone took over as superintendent here, he went back and did a past test analysis on scores because he was a big believer in that you can't look at 3rd grade from year to year to year to year because it's a different group of kids every year. You could have
and different tests.
You could have an influx of English language learners, you could have an influx of autistic children, you could have an influx of whatever to change the demographic of that class. So you could look at, you could have a 90, you could have a 76, you could have a 92, but if you took that and they were a 90 here, and they're an 87 here, and they're a 91 here, as a 3rd grader, 4th grader, 5th grader, you can follow the progression of that class looking diagonally. But if you strictly look straight across, you're looking at 3 different groups of children. So it's hard to say that every class is always on the same pace. And he did do those presentations for us with his spreadsheets that showed us, you know, okay, let's look at 3rd grade, but let's look at them in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. This is them going into middle school. And it showed us that yes, there was fluctuations between a 3rd grade, but when you went diagonally, they were relatively consistent. And hopefully, we'll remember exactly.
In 2008 also, they introduced what we call the MAS on this, where students were identified because of special needs, took a different format of the CMT, and their scores were not what they found on CMT reports the first year that it was administered. It wasn't even reported back. So in 2008, I believe you could have an influx of a higher percentage of doing proficiency or above because you've removed a whole or a good portion of something.
So the administration's position is that this, exactly the position is that what, on this article? I mean,
We followed the rules.
this one's talking 2008, it's saying 2008. It was looking for shifts, apparently the way this group of statisticians that they hired, newspaper reporters didn't do this, they hired professional statisticians and people who do probability studies, and they're saying the odds in 2010, and that's where Torrington was flat, Torrington and Bridgeport, Torrington was from 20% in 2008 down to 8.3, and apparently that's one of the flags is these big swings, and according to this article, then they said, the experts, the analysis shows that 2010 alone, grade-wide reading scores of 24,618 children nationwide swung so improbably that the odds of it happening by chance were less than 1 in 10,000. So cheating is one of the few plausible explanations for why scores would change so dramatically for so many students in this type of district, said James Wolak, University of Wisconsin expert in testing and cheating, who reviewed the newspaper's analysis. I can say with some confidence, cheating is something that you should be looking at. So you feel confident that you've looked at it and that there's realistic explanations for these?
In this district, in the administration, I feel that those tests are examples of honest work, not only by the teachers, but the students trying their best, and that it's kept, the protocol and procedures followed without any type of compromise. And that's going to the heart of the integrity of the profession.
I know that. I'm very well aware, and that's why I'm bringing this up. It absolutely destroys the credibility of anything and everything that we do with these kinds of allegations.
And the impact on the morale.
Yeah.
Of district-wide. I mean, we're coming out of multiple changes and trying to get on a steady stream of trying to create unity among not only the faculty and staff and administration, but within the community itself. This is a quality school district and always has been. And to have an allocation like this against us as the other 46.
Well, yeah. Will there be some response then?
Yeah.
Will there be an official response to basically clear our name?
There's part of me that says, why do I have to?
Because people are talking about it. It's all over, because it's all over the papers. It's
in the life of an
I
article
believe it's
in
gonna
the
be in the
paper.
paper tomorrow.
yeah.
Well, there's got to be a liability when something's printed this damaging to a district, to all the schools that this was named. I'm surprised there aren't, I'm not saying last year, but I'm just surprised there are other schools who are just like, this is ridiculous.
It's not even damaging, it's innuendo, which if you want to take it seriously and look for trouble, you can say, oh yeah, look at that. It's the same year where we had 20%, which is their trigger, by the way. The next year we had, what, 6%? This is...
And it's only on one grade level.
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
can have that. You can
Oh,
have
anyone
those
who's ever
kind of-
taught knows exactly what happens from year to year.
Thank you, John.
Anything.
The state is investigating the article, and the state is going to review the test data. They've asked for it from Atlanta, from the statisticians. They're going to review it, they're going to look into any wrongdoing, and it's going to be a mass investigation as to what happened. And if it's...
That's good.
And plus, to have the CAPS Association look into it and do the research saves, I have membership in it, and it saved me a lot of time and a lot of energy.
You won't see the exoneration on page 1. That'll be buried someplace.
Right. We want this community to be proud of this school district. And, each year you make a plan and where are you going to go? What strategies are you going to use for instruction? And how are you going to change just your whole organization and management and support services. It takes a lot of time, and you know, you see a small increment of change, and that's when you look at Torrington's results. We don't make huge gains, but, and these will be released Friday, even though Hartford and Bloomfield have already released theirs. But you look at 2010, overall reading, oh, wait a minute, I don't want this in the paper, I'll end there, never mind.
So say, took it away from me.
Yeah, never mind. But I can say that over, from 10 to 11 to 12, and I'm not saying which grade it is, but we have made small, incremental, sustainable increase in the number of students who are performing proficient or above as a whole district on the CMTs in reading, one grade level, just, okay? And you could go through this whole thing and you see it on every school, in every school, on every grade level.
That's because we bought that literacy program.
But
Yes.
Thank you. Finally,
and all I'm
we
saying
get
is that,
some credit
yeah,
for something.
But that is, and all I'm saying is that is precisely the reason why this cannot go unaddressed. You know, these allegations, because then people will say, okay, well, what good are those data? Because there could have been cheating. You know, that is a poisonous word, and Torrington has been associated with it, and I just very strongly believe that this board and this administration have got to, you know, strongly condemn this and
You know, how come Friday, when we release the CMT scores, they're not gonna show the growth that Torrington has made. They're just gonna say, we didn't make goal again this year.
We didn't hit the slide.
We didn't hit 92% of all students making goal on reading, or what is it in math, 90% in math, and, you know, are we 88? Are we 86? Yeah, and you know, when you look at old-fashioned testing, anytime you hit over 85% with a population, you're doing darn good, all right? But because back in 2000, 2001, they said by 2013-14, you will have 100%. There's no way you can hit 100. I would love to, but not even your.
I'm sorry, there's gonna be somebody that's not gonna hit 100%, I'm sorry. There just is. There's students not gonna hit. Is there a motion that you would like
Yeah.
to, you know, we're in an action item, does anybody wanna make a motion or a directive to
no.
respond?
No,
I mean,
no, I mean, you're gonna, basically, the state's gonna do the investigating, they're gonna
Caps.
issue
There's two
a
groups
denial that
doing it.
will exonerate us, and
And when I
it'll
get
be
that,
strong.
I'll share it with
Okay.
both press, I'll share it with you,
Yeah,
I'll share it
that's
with
all.
the press.
Because in my opinion, that's all we need to do.
And hopefully the press will make an apology to all the kids in Torrington. when it
hopefully it'll get
happens.
the same page coverage the first article.
Right.
Right? You'll pull for us?
I don't make those decisions.
I know, good answer. You see, it takes us 10 years to make an improvement, it takes you one day to knock it all down. It's just, it's a sad fact. It just is. Okay, consent agenda. I get a motion to, Fiona was up first, we'll give Daniel the second. All those in favor of the consent agenda? Opposed? Abstained? Unanimous. Okay, comments for the good of the order. Andrew?
Okay, first comment, it's more of a question. Graduation rate for this senior class, we have that statistic out yet?
You have to, we don't make it, the state makes it.
And when will that be?
Your guess is as good as mine. We got last year's about 2 weeks ago.
Really?
Honest.
Oh, well, then let's release last year's graduation rate. I assume the press will be on top of that. Okay, second, now this is an.
They changed, yeah, thank you, so you wanna add to that, they changed the formula on how they're gonna figure. I
don't know why we,
Isn't it
you know,
just number
try
of
to
students and those
evaluate
that graduate?
anything, what?
Isn't it just number of students and those that graduated would be a graduation rate?
In 4 years, or graduated.
Depends what you want to show.
Yeah,
A stats,
Yeah.
stats,
We still don't have.
statistics shows whatever it is you're looking for.
Okay, next
and
question.
it doesn't just happen at the high school level. All our efforts have been pre-K-12.
Okay, the next question is attendance for the month of May and June. I would love to see what those numbers are.
Yeah.
Based, I would like to see them published or whatever, besides online, so that, do you know if they spiked up? Because what I've been told by all different types of shareholders, the system, was that after the policy committee meeting, it was somehow assumed that our attendance policy was
Null and void, and they could skip school.
right, and that came, and all the teachers, students, parents all said that after that, they noticed it. So you have the data that would validate that or not? I'm hearing it from all sorts.
We can,
We'll have it in the
Yeah.
next board packet for you.
Okay, and then the last thing is just another observation, which is I was talking to an 8th grader who graduated from the middle school this year, and he did not get into Wolcott Tech. And my question is, do our middle school students in Torrington, are they having difficulty getting into Wolcott Tech?
no, they just only take a certain percentage, and there's more students applying to Wolcott Tech than before. And it's from more towns. Torrington isn't the only town that feeds into Wolcott Tech.
We only get a certain percentage of the population.
And we have absolutely no say in who gets accepted and who doesn't. If we had a student who was accepted for Wolcott Tech and had a disciplinary incident at the middle school, we send their final records on. The disciplinary record is in the child's record that goes on. They're mandated to do that by the state. He got a letter saying you're no longer accepted. We have and if you're just going a little further with this, we could have students 3 years in Wolcott Tech or 3 years at Wamogo, and for whatever reason, they're not making the grade there to that school's satisfaction. Guess where they come back to? Yeah, so now we're struggling because they'll come back, they may not have the credits, so we have to do a double dance to make sure they get the credits and still graduate on time.
My concern with this issue, though, is Wolcott Tech, it's a state school, it's obviously taxpayer money. I think people should understand just how that whole process takes place, and that are some nice, good students who would find a Wolcott Tech education valuable and what they probably need based upon their personality are being denied the opportunity to go to a Wolcott Tech. And I understand it's based on an acceptance process, but I don't know how else to bring up the issue that maybe there's something wrong with the what?
No, well, the state is already dealing with that, okay? Because there has been a lot of discussion on the limited population that are accepted into the state schools. And anyways, but what we are looking to are alternate programs offered by other schools that are willing to be in partnership with us to offer similar experiences for students who may be interested in culinary, woodworking, automobile mechanics.
Well, just say, we've taken the alternative high school concept, and Cheryl is working on, we can't afford to build an alternative high school. So there are schools in the area that can offer a program to us similar to like a magnet school where you go part-time to the high school, part-time there, and you can get the technical classes there at a higher level of expertise than we can offer with no capital outlay.
So I'm to assume that we're not going to be partnering up with Wilkentech this year or anytime in the near future.
They don't want to. They don't
I
want to.
mean-
They don't want to. They don't.
We're the local board of education for the city of
From
Torrington.
their teachers and
What?
from their teachers and administrators' perspective, there's no incentive. There's no incentive. Malloy is behind it. I mean, this was Malloy's proposal. Then our state representatives got a hold of it and buried the idea. It's a perfectly good idea. Perfectly good idea to basically have a partnership. We've got tons of space up at the high school. We have tons of need.
We offer the academics
Right.
and then the technical. Well, CJR has just had millions donated to them, and they've, over the past 2 years, have built a whole carpentry, culinary arts, like 5 different automotive,
They're willing to partner with us.
building,
That's what
yeah.
we're.
And they wrote a grant to partner with us. And so we'll work out what our in-kind is and what their in-kind is, but if we can provide the transportation for the students there or some, and another
Right.
teacher going along, they could benefit. They have a curriculum, it's a state accepted curriculum.
Gets us back to what I know Paul and yourself and I used to try to champion, was trying to get some of the technical classes back into the high school. And this gets us without having to upgrade our technical wing, because they just upgraded theirs. I mean, if we can set something up with them, that's what we're pushing to go that route.
Seriously, I think this is the way to go.
It goes along with your own as little as you have to. If they own it, let's use
It's
it.
the
agree.
low cost,
I
no
agree.
cost, and we have a good relationship and a good contract.
Yeah.
Yes, we send many of our students with special needs there, but, they're saying, look, we want to expand and we want all students there and offer that opportunity.
Without putting too fine a point, and we're returning to, we're still in the comments of the good order, right?
Yes.
Just, and, I do apologize for my tone, tired and late, but the earlier comment about the school profile, it's just, my sense of urgency is just that, in looking at doing these small learning communities and looking to partner, we need to have, it shouldn't be just the board requesting, we should, it just should be sort of part of the ongoing common discussion, I would think, at central office about why are we losing, just a much clearer idea of who we're losing kids and why we're losing them to what, in what specific ways, so that that information can feed what we're trying to do in terms of small learning communities, There should be, X number went to Omoga, they went to Omoga for this reason, or they went to here for that reason, or they went to there for that reason. And, if we can track and get real numbers on those things, then we have, it seems to me, some real data to start informing us on our small learning community initiatives, which is going in different directions, as it should.
And I
But
think even before we can even get our small learning communities up and running, how can we partner with existing schools out there
Right.
and, do a trade-off?
But finding out where kids are naturally gravitating toward simply by their choice of schools would seem to just be a real ongoing piece of information that we should have.
It,
David, do you have anything? Or Daniel, do you have anything?
I'm good.
Daniel, do you have anything? Thomas, from the good order?
No. That's
Are we gonna have a second retreat or a follow-up to that?
Most likely.
Okay.
I think there's an awful lot in there. Soon.
No.
The second retreat's when you get on the small boats and you leave the beach.
I would like to see at a future meeting, when looking, I wasn't at the budget committee meeting in June, but I see the discussion was had regarding using a different attorney. And I feel that even though that was uncovered at budget, I think that's a full board issue. And I think that we spoke, last night at the retreat about the Board of Education making the decisions for the district and everyone kind of rowing in the same direction. And this is just something that just sticks in my side because the full board voted to hire a law firm to represent the Torrington Board of Education. And I don't believe, for whatever reason, that people can go on their own and elect to hire who they like, when the board has clearly stated, we want to use the same law firm, we want to use it for all our services. So I think that the full board needs to readdress this, and if the full board is in agreement, then I'm fine with that, but I think as a full board, we made a decision to hire Shipman and Goodwin, and if that's gonna be altered, then the full board needs to make that decision to say also, you don't have to unilaterally do them, but I don't think it's any employee's decision to do what they want. We've made a clear direction of where we wanna go.
We'll see if we can fit it in August. If not, we'll put it into September, but we'll put it on a list of things for the upcoming agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, the competitions.
Paul, anything else?
No.
John?
No.
Daniel?
No.
You good?
No, David.
David, I'm sorry.
ECS, we're gonna have the politicians come.
Well, that's coming up.
Oh, okay.
This was Thomas, let me get to the order. All right, committee reports or minutes, personnel committee.
Basically, our two personnel committees last month dealt with the contract negotiations with, and they both passed. So that took care of the month of June. Now we'll see what July brings.
Project, is not here. Grievance?
Grievance has been very busy, unfortunately. But we did we're working with the TEA to develop a committee that's going to review the new insurance carrier over the next year. And based on the formation of this committee, we're basically not going to be going to arbitration with the state over the issue on the new insurance. So more to come on
And in
that.
fact, they've withdrawn their grievance.
They've withdrawn.
Good job.
More to come on that. So anyone that would like to be on that committee can let me know.
Policy? Yes, we don't have a report. All right, we had on the list for items for the upcoming agenda, obviously the financial statements, committee reports. The ECS engineer funding that is on there is the City of Torrington hired ECS Energy Auditing to review the cost-saving measures that could be made on city-owned facilities. ECS Engineering did a study on all city-owned buildings, which included us. The report came to the city. The city has signed with ECS a letter of intent, but ECS will not move forward until we agree. We currently have a next gen working for us at the middle school, which is an energy solutions company that came in with the chiller and light proposal that saved us a tremendous amount of money at the middle school. We have asked them to do a similar proposal to what ECS has done, so that we're looking at least 2 bids instead of just looking at one and going. So they're gonna give us we got ECS next gen. I'm not sure when they're gonna be ready, but we're hoping they'll be ready for the August meeting as well. We're gonna pair ECS and next gen up to the same meeting, so at least we're looking at 2 proposals instead of one month and one the next one, we forget. We have the legislators scheduled to discuss ECS funding. Sorry, I didn't pick the acronyms. At our August meeting, correct, Deb? And the new,
Yes.
and they're gonna talk about SB 24?
BL 12116, yeah, he's got a public law number, BL 12 for the year, 116 for the bill.
We won't remember that, but Sue will. All right, I added on here, per Paul's request at our last meeting was to add an aggressive forward movement on education. That wasn't the word I had, I don't think I got wordsmith. What did I have? I had radical movement. And radical got changed to forward.
Right.
You had said a radical movement on education. I want you to know, it's on the radar to be coming in the...
Yeah, it was part of actually what was discussed at the retreat last night.
Yeah,
In
it's...
terms of the board spending its time focusing on long-term strategic district planning and not small, micromanaging essentially.
Yep.
So, how we go about doing that, I guess that's what you want to talk about then?
Yep. And Mr. Kisco has asked a question of, we have all these committees that work on different aspects, policy, budget, what have you, and he would like to discuss with us an oversight panel for the high school, because every person kind of does a little piece in the high school, just see whether we want to discuss putting an oversight panel to kind of keep track of our school that seems to have a lot of issues, and if we can help it, or if one committee is doing something that's contrary to the other committee, which is causing stress to the school unintentionally, but because there's an overlap in assignments. So we're going to bring that forward to see if we can discuss that. Staffing summary for all our schools, current movements, what we have coming forward, who was there, who left, who transferred. And we're going to add for next month AP and college credit course enrollments and offerings. Well, they're not all necessarily going to be next month. These are upcoming agendas. We'll add what we can and what we, like, I doubt ECS is going to be ready because we won't have next year. So that'll probably end up going into September. All right. Future meetings, policy on the 23rd, school improvement on the 25th, budget August 8th, personnel August 8th. Number 13. Vincent. Motion for adjournment, second by Ellen. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions?